Hello and welcome to Code Tutorials. In this video, we are going to explore how you can display and compare information in table form on your site. This will be useful whether you're focusing on products, payment plans, benefits, or something else entirely. To do all this, we'll be using the Comparative Table widget from the key add-ons for Elementor Premium plugin. With this widget, you input the labels manually so they can be anything suitable to your business. Moreover, you can pick the row values or, put simply, select the checkmarks yourself so you can be sure that all the information you share is appropriate and up to date. Beyond its great potential for use in many different situations, this widget is easily customized to many different settings. It includes options that let you set background colors, differentiate those colors by rows or columns, decide on the number of columns and rows, style the text using a selection of typography options, and more. Additionally, you can combine it with other page elements such as background images and titles, or with other widgets from the key add-ons collection to create whatever you like. Having said all that, let's take a look now at how to actually use this widget and its many options. Head over to the back end, and in the Elementor sidebar, search for Comparative Table. There it is. Now drag it over to the page. And this is what the widget looks like by default. It has some placeholder text with minimal styling. So, when you start to customize it, the first thing you have is the main column title field. That's for this text here. I'll replace mine now. Give me a sec. There. Then we have 3 heading items. They represent the row titles. And if we open one, we can see there's just the title option in here. And it allows us to change this text in the table. We also have another set of items. Those are the column items. There's 2 of them, so we have 2 columns with check marks in the table. And when we open one of these items, we can see several options. They allow us to adjust all the content of this column. And we have the second item for the second column. Okay, now that you know what's what, I can start changing the content. First, I'll add 2 more heading items to my table. Simply click on Add Item to do that. And 1 more for me. There. Now that I've set my row number, I can start changing the titles, starting from the top. It's a simple input field, so just type in whatever you like. This is gonna be my title for row 1. Since all the other heading items are the same, I'll skip ahead so you don't have to watch me typing endlessly. Okay, here we are. I finished my last row title and now I'm ready to start changing the column's content. I won't be adding any new columns, so I can just dive in. So, as we noted before, there are several options in here. I'll start by replacing the column title. There. Then we have the row values field. As input, it accepts plus and minus signs. Basically, positives and negatives that correspond to tick marks and X marks in the column. So you add a plus when you want to show a tick mark and a minus when you want to show an X mark. And when you input your values into this field, they are rendered in the table from top to bottom. So when I replace the first one, you can see how the mark in the first cell changes. I'm going to carefully replace all the others. Just give me a sec. Oh, and don't forget to separate each plus or minus sign you add with a comma. You even have this note reminding you just in case. Okay, after this we have the column link field. There's a hash mark as a placeholder here. As this is just a tutorial, I'll leave it, but you should make sure to add a proper URL. That URL would be applied to the button at the end of the column, this one. By default, it says purchase, but you can change that easily here if you want to. Alright, that's my first column done. I'll jump ahead while I customize the second one as it's all the same. Okay, there we go. And with that, the first section of the options is done. The next one is for the button. There is just one option here and it lets us add an underline to the button text. I'm going to switch this to yes. And there we go. Now my button has a text underline. Alright. Next, we have the button icon section, which we can use to add an icon next to the button text, and then determine whether it will be positioned on the left or the right. I don't plan on using an icon, so I'll just carry on. After this, we have the Developer Tools section. There is just one option in here, and when we switch its setting to yes, it displays the widget in the form of a WordPress shortcode, which can be easily copied for use elsewhere on our site. Okay, after that, we have the Help section. It contains some helpful links and resources should you need them. Alright, that's it for the Content tab. Let's take a look at the Style tab now. The first section of the options here will help us style some general things about the comparative table, such as the table layout. The default setting is auto, and we can see what it looks like on the right. The alternative to that is fixed, which gets us this look where the width of the two columns is predefined and fixed. With this one, you get a more even division of space in the table. The option after this is for setting the minimal width of the entire table. When I start to increase, nothing much happens until I reach 1300 pixels and over. This is the width of my grid and the space that my comparative table is set to fit. Going over that value adds a slider to the element because it's wider now than the grid allowance. This is a really useful feature if you set a large number of columns and want to keep their content easily visible. However, given that my table is relatively modest and the information is visible as it is, I'll simply clear this. Okay, there. After that, we have the border style option. It's set to all, so right now we have a light gray border dividing all the table cells. Let me click away from it so it's easier to see. The border is all around the table as well as the individual cells. But if we switch the setting here to inside only, then we can see that we only have the inner borders, so just the ones between the cells rather than all around the table. Alright, I'll keep using all since it's more in line with my planned design. And when you're using a border, you can pick what type you want it to be. The default setting is none, meaning there's no options, just the plain border. So if you want to adjust your border, you'll have to switch to one of the other types. For example, solid. This will make the width option appear. With it, you can adjust your border width. You can type in 0 to make the border disappear, or you can increase the default value to make the border wider. It will make it easier to see the differences between the border types. Now when I switch this to double, we can see what it looks like. There's also the dotted type, then the dashed, and finally grooved. Okay, I'll go back to solid as that's part of my planned design and set its width to 2 pixels. And once that's done, we can set the border color. You can use the slider or set a hex code. I'll do the latter and make my border a peachy pink. There. After that, we have the column title cell padding option. It lets us add more space above and below the column titles. When I increase, we can see how the space here has changed. That's because I have more space here and here. So I set this to show you, but I do want some padding, so I'll put 29 pixels here. Then we have the cell padding option. This lets us add space all around the content of our table cells. So this applies to everything in the table except the title row, which we just adjusted. I don't want all sides to be the same, so I'll clear this and then click here to delink the fields, and then I can enter different values in each. And those will be 26 pixels at the top, 37 on the right, 26 at the bottom, and 37 on the left. Okay, perfect. Following that, we have the first column width option. As its name suggests, it lets us set how wide the first column will be. This one with the titles. For the value here, I'll switch to percentages and set 41%. Okay, then we have the background style option. It works in concert with the color option below to let us set how our table will look. The default setting is simple and it allows us to set a single color as the table background. It can be anything you like. Other than that, we have the row content setting. With this, we get 2 color options for the background. The first will let us change the color of the column with the row titles, like so, and the second will cover the rest of the table, like so. Alright, that was row content. I'll reset this. There. And then we have the title content setting. With this one, we also have two color options, but now they have slightly different effects. The first, as you can see, changes the colors of the first column as well as the first and last row. Then the second covers the table values, the cells with the check marks. Alright, let me clear this. And then we can take a look at the last setting, alternating. That too comes with two color options and they work like this. The first changes the background color of the first and every other row after that. Since this is the background style I want to use, I'll immediately set the hex code I want. There we go. And the second color, as you might have expected, covers the remaining rows. Since I want them to be white, I'll clear this. Now, usually this means that these rows will become transparent and show whatever column or section background color you have. However, since my section background color is white, I can get away with this, let's call it shortcut. Otherwise, I'd recommend taking the time to properly select the color you want. Alright, that was our first section in the style options. The next one is for the main title style. In here, we can change things like the main title tag, and it would apply only to the column titles. The same goes for the color. You can change it and it would affect only the column titles. I want to set something that would match my border color, so I'll add a hex code to do that. Okay. And then we can make changes to the typography settings. The typography settings are composed of several options, such as the font family. You can scroll through this list or search for the font if you know its name. Then there's the font size. You can increase it with the slider or by typing in a new value. I'll set 17 pixels for mine. We also have the weight option if you'd like to change the font weight. Then there's the transform option if you want to make your column titles, for example, uppercase. After that, we have the style option where you can pick any of these settings. The decoration if you want to add a line over, under, or through the titles. And the line height, letter spacing, and word spacing options if you'd like to make any adjustments to the spaces there. And those were the options you get under typography, if you want to make any changes to the main title text. Okay, in the section under that, we have the row title style options. This is where we can make changes to the row titles. The first option lets us change the title tag. I'm happy with the default one, so I'll just move on. Besides that, we can change the title color. You can pick any shade you like, and we can see here what the change might look like. I'm going to use the same color here that I have for the column titles. Give me a sec to add a hex code. There. And after that, we have the row title typography options. They are the same as the typography options we've seen already, so I won't waste your time by going over them again. Instead, let me just make the settings I need and we'll carry on. And what I need is to change the font size to 17 pixels and that's it. Let's move on. The section after this is for the sign style. This is where we can change the look of the tick marks and X marks. As you can see right at the start, we have the check sign field. We can use it to upload a replacement for the existing tick mark, this symbol showing a positive value. And the second field is for replacing the X or the negative sign. You can replace these with something from the icon library. There is an extensive collection for you to choose from. Or you can upload a custom SVG. I'll do that and select this as my new tick mark. Insert. And we can see it here now. As for the X mark, I'll do the same and pick an SVG. I'll use this one. As it's the last thing in my media library, it's selected by default. So just insert. And there we are. Once your marks, or symbols, or signs, whatever you want to call them, are picked out, you have some options for styling them. The first one is for changing the check sign color. So if you want to associate your positive marks with a specific color, this is your chance. For my part, I want the marks to match the title color, so I'll add a hex code to make it so. Okay, there we go. After that, we have the option to adjust the check sign size. It's very straightforward. I'll leave this set to 14 pixels. Then we have the options for styling the X or the negative mark. Again, you have this easy-to-use color picker. But since I know the precise color I want, I'll set the hex code for it. Alongside that, we have the option for setting the X sign color. For that, I'll set 13 pixels. And there we go. These are my finalized mark styles and sizes. So with that done, you're probably beginning to see the shape of my final table. Or you can see that the button sticks out. I'm going to fix that now by switching over to the button style options. Given that the button is textual, we have the typography options for it. As we covered what those are already, I'll just quickly change the weight to 700 and set the transform to uppercase. And we can see how the button text has changed. Okay, let's carry on. After the typography, we have these normal and hover switches. Each reveals a different option or options. Under normal, we can change the button text color. You can set it to be anything you like. I'll type in the hex code for the orange shade I've been using throughout. Okay, perfect. Then, if we switch over to the hover settings, we can see there's only the text hover color here. So that's the button text color that will be visible only on hover. Okay, I landed on something pretty similar to my original color. Let me change it. I'll set something grayer. We can more clearly see the difference between the normal and hover colors now. Okay, I don't want the colors to differ actually, so I'll reset this and then carry on with the rest of the options. So the next thing we have is the button padding. The active fields are for the top and bottom, so when we start to increase here, the padding is only added above and below the button text. For this, I'm going to set 22 pixels. Okay. After that, we have the button cell background color. With this option, we can change the background color of the cells containing the buttons. I want to highlight them somehow, so I'll just set a paler shade of the color I've been using so far. Okay, the color is there and the button matches it nicely. Then, if you want to, you can change the button cell hover background color. It can be anything you like. If you choose to omit or clear the color here, then the background color will be the same for normal and on hover display. That's what I want, so I'm happy with this look. In the section after this one, we have the button icon style settings. You can use the options here to style an icon if you added one to your button text. Since I haven't done that, these options don't apply to me and I can simply carry on. Now, in the button underline style, we have options that will let us change the look of the line drawn under the button text. Here as well, we have the normal and hover switches. Under normal, we can adjust the underline color. Okay, we can see it now. Here it is. Then we can adjust the underline width. It's very straightforward. By dragging the slider, we can change how wide the line will be. And if you decide to make your line shorter than the button text, then you can use the underline alignment option to change its position. I'll switch this just to show you. From left to right, then from right to the center. Okay, I don't plan on sticking with this look, so I'll just reset these options. There. Now, if we take a look at the options under hover, we have the underline hover color and the underline hover width. Let me set the width first. I'll switch this to percentages and set 100. Then the line takes up the full width of the space available for it. Additionally, when we hover, it doesn't disappear as it did before. That's because its default hover width was 0 pixels and we changed that. So now that the line won't disappear on me when I show you, I can set the underline hover color. And for that, I'm going to set anything that will differ from the normal color, like so. Okay. Following that, we have the enable hover underline draw option. If we switch this to yes, we'll get this lively animation effect for the line. We can see how it makes the line look like it's being drawn in real time. Alright, let's cover the remaining options. After this, we have the underline offset. We can use it to shift the underline closer to or further away from the button text. And the same offset will apply whether the button is displayed normally or hovered over. I'm going to set 6 here to keep the line close to the text. Next, we have the underline thickness. It's quite simple. You can use it to make the line thicker. I'll set 2 pixels for mine. And That's actually all we had left. I'll hit update now to save my work. And this is my finished comparative table element. I've chosen to compare two car service plans to give you an idea of how this widget works and what you can do with it. If you need more ideas, you can go back to the page we started from. The different examples shown here can serve as inspiration or blueprint, depending on what you're up for. Since you now know how this widget works and what options it has, you can easily break these examples down so you can recreate them on your own site. Of course, if you prefer, you can create something completely unique. Here we can see the example I chose to mirror for this tutorial. Whether you decide to do as I have or to go your own way is entirely up to you. Ultimately, we hope you found this tutorial on the Comparative Table widget from the Key Addons for Elementor Premium plugin to be helpful. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please drop us a line in the comments below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and be the first to learn about any new tutorials and theme guides. Thank you for watching.